I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Great. Let me just shut my
Right.
phone off here so we don't get interrupted 100 times.
All right. So just by way of introduction, David, do you want to say a few words about yourself and the briefcase?
Yeah, Dave Broome. I'm the president of 25/7 Productions. That's my production company. We make lots of shows. You mentioned The Biggest Losers being one of them. That's certainly one. The Briefcase is a new CBS series. It's last night we ran our third episode. And there's obviously a lot of controversy from the critics. Fans seem to love it in a big way. And I saw your article and your blog and your wonderful piece in Time. And I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Sounds great. So first of all, by way of making sure everyone knows, I have watched all 3 episodes in their entirety of The Briefcase. And as I said, I'm not a huge fan of reality television. I think it's entertaining. There's some value to some of these reality TV shows. Others, I think really exploit people. But I want to first of all say that I certainly did not attack you. Anyone I think is able to come up with the most outlandish, most creative, craziest, whatever they want to do, ideas for a television show. I actually call out CBS for greenlighting this show because I do think that it exploits people when they're at their worst and they're most vulnerable. You did mention to me in an email that you are Jewish, that you're a practicing member of the Jewish faith. And as a rabbi, there's one concept I think really comes out for me here, and it's a Hebrew term called gnevat da'at, which literally means stealing the mind. And I would say the best English translation for it would be deceit. And so at the beginning of the show, you tell the participants that they're going to be taking part in a documentary about money, which is not true because really they're going to be part of a competition.
That's totally false. That's not true. There's no game to this. There's no contest. There's no game. 2 families are given a briefcase, Jason, with $101,000 cash. They're independent of each other. They have no idea about the other family's briefcase. And we put them into a dome in an environment that, creates realness and real issues. But I just want to back up and let's do a dialogue so we both have a good conversation here. Because there's a couple things we have to set up first. You, along with several other people in the media, have seemed to put the families in desperate, dire, horrifically poverty-stricken type need. And I need to give a clarification to you and to anyone else out there, because that's a wrong starting point. You cannot like the show, and I want to hear about that. But I want to set up what we set out to do. We very much wanted middle-class families in this country. Last night's episode, if you watched it, and we were the #1 show of the night, dealt with 2 families. A Texan family, we'll talk about their background after. A Texas family living in a small town making about $71,000 a year. And a Boston lesbian gay family earning
interracial. I would say both middle class, fair enough.
Earning $135,000, approximately $135,000 a year. It was really important for us to uncover what the middle class really means. In your piece that you wrote in Time, or what I've seen out there, takes these families, even your description isn't necessarily about just struggling families, because yes, we wanted struggling middle class. Your descriptions went on to say that these families are suffering in the ability to put food on the table for their children, roof over their head. That's wrong. And it's a mischaracterization of the show in any and every episode. Go ahead.
So I like the word. First of all, I don't want to get into the argument over designation of class. Are you middle class? Are these lower class families?
But that's been a big that's been one of the issues.
And I know it has. And I read your piece in the New York Post. What I will say is, on last night's episode, you did have this family from Texas. They were presented with $101,000, and one of the individuals they were going to help with that money was actually a sister. and the sister was living in, I don't want to take anything out of context, I believe a trailer.
That's true.
With no bathroom and a leaky roof.
That's the sister, right?
That's the sister. I would not categorize her as middle class. She's
You're right, but she
indoor plumbing.
You're right, but she is not the family. She's not the family that we gave the briefcase to.
That's right. But when this family receives $100,000, let's call it $100,000.
Yeah, sure.
And in their mind, in their brain, they've been presented with a gift. With, it seems to me at the beginning, I don't know what kind of documentations or contracts or agreements they signed, but really no strings attached. They have $100,000. In their mind, they're thinking, we can help sister get out of the trailer with no indoor bathroom and a leaky roof. However, there are strings attached.
Hold on a second. Let's get it right. Let's stop for 1 second. There are no strings attached to it. Sorry, we have an echo. There's a decision to be made, and that the money is theirs to do what they want with it, and they can justify. And the reason why we chose these families is because we wanted them to be able to justify everything in their minds throughout this journey. There's no strings attached. All we said to them was, here's the money. Do what you want with it. It's yours. However, there's a decision. You can keep all, some, or none. Now, that's not a string.
Guilt is the string.
It's not guilty.
Emotion, toying with people's emotions.
First of all,
it plays great. It gets an audience.
No,
but it is playing with people's emotions.
It's not playing with them, Jason. I would disagree with it. It's giving them an opportunity to delve into conversations with each other and with their family members in ways that they've never done before. The spirit of this show, and you can look at the brands that I make. Biggest Loser is, you can like the show or not like the show, that's fine. But I don't make trashy reality television shows. And by the way, nor does CBS. It is a show that is thought-provoking. It is a show that causes you to buckle down and watch it. And we'll talk about the issues that you saw in last night's episode. There's no guilt in this. In fact, these families I want to hear what you have to say. The reason why there's no guilt in the show is that the families can justify and should justify keeping all of it as their starting point. But more importantly, and I believe the Talmud, and if you want to talk about tzedakah and just issues in Judaism or any faith for that matter, these people, every single family said, the only thing better than getting this blessing that came into their life was the opportunity to bless another family.
And let me interrupt you there, because I love that concept, right? You might be the first reality TV show ever to deal with charity, to deal with tzedakah. And I love that. What I don't love is how you get there. And I'm sure, look, if you or I or anyone else were pitching CBS executives and said, I got this great idea for a TV show about charity and a family's going to be donating money to another family in need, I'm sure they would tell me, where to find the door, and no one's going to watch that. I understand that. What I don't like is that you are helping this family. So I know there are other reality TV shows where, someone needs a new house or a remodeled home or something like that, and they get it. But they're not given a brand new home and then told, but there's another family down the street who needs it worse.
But you have to remember things. One family, in your characterization, it makes it seem like I'm taking $100,000 and putting it in the middle of a coliseum and taking two needy, desperate families and saying, go fight for this. That's not obviously what's happening. I'm helping, first of all, two families. I'm giving two families in need. We're giving. CBS is giving.
One family could walk away with $200,000 and the other family.
That's right. You're right. But here's the thing. They're doing it independently. And not only are they doing it independently, they're doing it in a way that's put them in a position to question and think about who they are, what's important in their life, what are their values. If you were to go ask, you and I are having this conversation. Let's bring it back to Judaism. We can imagine what a Holocaust victim might feel like. We know how awful and tragic that is. But it's nothing like until you actually speak to a Holocaust victim and hear from them that you understand what they're feeling. If you were to think and talk to the families who went through this process, greed or guilt or any of the things that you're describing, that's never crossed their mind. In fact, they've been vocal in social media. They've been vocal in the press that's been willing to talk to them to say that this experience was an unbelievable, eye-opening and wonderful experience that they would do again. And the other thing I just want to talk about quickly, and then have you jump on this, is that we're only talking about the money in this show. This show was never designed to be about money. Believe it or not, this was a show that was designed to talk about communication in a family, love, compassion, empathy, and most importantly, and you saw this last night, finding a common bond amongst strangers. And I want to just set it up for anyone who hasn't seen this, right, last night's episode, and then you please chime in. We took a wonderful Christian, right-wing, very conservative Texas family last night.
They like their guns.
They like their guns. And that's who they are. And they learned about the life of equally wonderful gay, lesbian, married couple who brought in 2 children and want money to start their own family from Boston. And if you watch that episode and you heard the conversations, the Matt Wiley talking to his 16-year-old daughter about in vitro and about, hey, a lesbian married family. And this is not, the Bible says it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. But then she goes on to say, I'd help them any way I can. You tell me, Jason, where are you seeing those conversations on network television? Where are you hearing anywhere in the world of what we live in media right now, the ability for 2 very, very different families to find the commonality and to share anything with each other? Both of those families could have given nothing to each other and still have had those conversations, and it would have been a wonderful experience for the audience. But the fact that they found it, I'm almost done, the fact that they found the humanity between each other, knowing that, come on, let's be honest, the Christian family does not believe in the marriage and the sanctity of the lesbian, of Layla and Tanya. And we know Layla and Tanya know that vice versa. That's what this show is designed to do. Now, we can go back and certainly talk about the money and talk about, if you want to, debate about greed or guilt. I don't agree with you. But the fact is the show is much, much deeper than that.
So 2 things. One, I don't really talk about the greed and the guilt. I know I mentioned that you are playing with people's emotions and bringing up feelings of guilt, which I do think is part of it. But what I would say is let me just say, I do like where you get. I like your endpoint. I think most people do. Certainly a lesbian couple from Boston embracing a gun-toting Republican family from Texas that lives on a farm makes for good TV, and is certainly something that, breaks borders and brings people together. And there's a certain human emotional quality of understanding and tolerance. I like that endpoint. I don't like how you get there, because I think that's where it comes up in deceit. If you're telling people, here is a gift of $100,000, there's a gift of $100,000. Nobody wants, and kids are involved too. I mean, there's a scene, I think last night, the family in Boston, where you see the kids sort of, looking at the money, touching the money. And the truth is that might not be their money, because they might ultimately decide to give it away to another family. And now it's not just how, partners in a marriage are talking to each other and making difficult decisions about how much money to keep and how much to give away. These are actually kids, and these are kids who, maybe in that family, in that case, it wasn't about putting food on the table, but it was about school tuition payments. So the kids are affected too, and they don't have a voice in these decisions.
But they chose to involve the children because they looked at this as a life opportunity.
They didn't know what they were getting into. They thought they were talking about
No.
Am I wrong?
Yes, you're wrong. They told the children after they knew everything and the decision. They sat down at the table.
At what point do these families find out that they're not part of a documentary about money?
The first 2 minutes. So when you watch the scene, and I'm pulling up an email, but when you watch the scene that where they sat down with the children,
right?
It was their choice to talk to the children and involve them, and B, they did it 7 hours after I walked in the door and told them about the money and the decision they had to make. And I'm going to pull up an email from Layla, who she sent. What an unbelievable experience and opportunity to sit down with their children. They talk and preach about who they are to them, but this gave them the opportunity to demonstrate it and involve their family. And that is invaluable. And you will not see that. You, as a rabbi, should be embracing this concept on network television, because you're not grasping onto.
I am.
You're not. I say it respectfully. You're not. And
go ahead and read Layla's email.
Yeah, let me pull it up for you. I think you're going to be blown away by this. But talk while I find it.
So I don't want to give any spoilers from the episode last night, but
no,
I will say that these are families that had an opportunity to really, and you're right, these aren't impoverished families, at least not on the first 3 episodes, but these are certainly
none of the episodes.
These are families that aren't admittedly can't go shopping for food that they want because they don't have enough money and they have so much debt, and the kids tuition, or people are trying to get pregnant through expensive measures. These are people who really need the money, and you're giving it to them under false pretext. And I think you would have to admit to that there is a certain level of deceit in order to play by the rules of this. And you don't like the term game.
No, hold on a second.
It is a contest. It's a game.
It's not. And it's not. It's not. It's a social experiment, and you're wrong by calling it a game.
But these aren't lab rats. These are real human people.
But Jason, they have the power. They have we've given them the money. They have the decision to do anything they want with it. They know
they can keep 100% of it and look horrible.
Wrong. You're feeling
to millions of people.
Guess what?
I happen to think I think the couple from Texas looked bad last night. They kept a lot of money.
Really? Do you? Wait a second. Let me ask you. Let me just say.
Yeah.
Do you think that a Christian family that doesn't believe in the sanctity of gay marriage and doesn't believe in the in a pregnancy through in vitro, you don't think that family that actually gave $25,000 of their money to bless this other family look bad?
They got $75,000 for free.
But you're talking about it in money terms. Why don't you look at it in the fact that they've
I think what you get to, I think your end zone makes for good TV.
It's not good TV.
And human interest. It's a good human interest story because you got a Republican gun-toting family from a Texas farm to embrace a biracial lesbian couple from Boston.
So then
that's certainly good TV.
So hold on a second, Jason. Is it?
I don't like the rules of the show.
Beyond, that's fine.
And that's where people are calling you out.
No,
people are calling you out on the ethics of how you get there.
So let me read to you. Let me just read to you.
If 60 Minutes on CBS was able to bring these totally different families with completely opposing viewpoints together politically and spiritually and everything else, and get them to hug and maybe help each other in some way, financially or otherwise, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Guess
Where
what?
People are calling you out. They don't like the way you've produced this.
But
right?
Guess what, Jason? You would never get the realness in the sticks. 1 second. You would never get the realness and rawness in the scenario you just set up on 60 Minutes. The only way you can get it to be real is to create the purity of the environment. That's what I've done. If I were to tell both families, for example, there's another family that also has a briefcase, evaluate your life and let them, that's pretty much what you would love to have happen. Guess what would happen at that point?
I don't think that would be possible. But
because why? Because what would happen is now, instead of thinking about their own values and thinking about what's important in their life, And in thinking about maybe what these other people are like, they're going to start to think about, how much money are we going to get back in turn? Then it becomes a money conversation. Let me just read you one thing real quick, okay?
Sure.
I think this is really important.
Please.
It's on an email from Layla. In fact, we're trying to put it out. It's not long, so bear with me. Her headline is "An Opportunity to Reaffirm Family Values." That's the headline. Recently, Tanya and I had the opportunity to participate in a new reality series, The Briefcase. This experience is one that neither Tanya nor I thought we would ever have. Initially, we were approached by a friend who thought we would be a perfect fit for an episode of a documentary about hardworking American families trying their best to achieve the American dream. Since we are a fairly private family, we had some initial reservations about being filmed, as honest and raw as you can get here. But after some thought and going through the casting process, we thought this might be a unique opportunity to show that our non-traditional blended family was much like other American families. At our core, we are an incredibly loving family who values service, putting others before ourselves, family, honesty, humility, and is ultimately led by our faith. We were hopeful that by participating in the, quote, documentary, we could demonstrate that if you can look past what seems unfamiliar, you will likely find something very familiar. In fact, you just may find pieces of yourself revealed in another human you don't know and who may live a life that is perceivably completely different than yours. Tanya and I were certainly surprised beyond words when we realized that the show actually was about giving a briefcase with $101,000 in it, to your point. This might be something people commonly sit around and discuss, and those conversations are fun, interesting, and can also be a source of conflict. Just like everyone else, we've had those conversations before, but we never thought it would actually happen. This time, the conversation wasn't hypothetical. There was a no call or a lifeline, and the decision about what to do with $101,000 was real. Anyone can talk about what they might do given a large amount of money, but when actually put to this test, we never know what we would really do. The process of deciding what to do with the money provided us with an amazing opportunity to learn more about each other and, more importantly, about ourselves. While it was an emotionally challenging experience, it afforded us with the opportunity to reaffirm our family values and to give a life-changing experience to our nephews, Milton and Jaden. The lessons our family learned and the values that were reinforced through this experience will stay with us always. Almost done. As an interracial same-sex couple trying to provide the best education and life for two young boys of color in an urban environment, we are very much aware of the importance of being both advocates and role models. Tanya, Milton, Jane, and I live every day trying best to learn, grow, love, and suspend judgment. We have a quote on our wall that says, "Change your thoughts and you'll change your world." Through actively practicing those principles, we are striving to be the best selves despite the challenges we face. We hope, as we did when we started this part of our journey, that people who see our family can find a piece of themselves in our story. We hope that you see a side of America that you might not get to see every day, and that you find love and faith that transcends boundaries and barriers to focus on the beauty of humanity. Don't stop there. Look for ways you can reach out and make a difference to someone, especially someone who you might not have thought to before. If you hear this, and I'm going to let you talk, and just capture what she is saying here, and just think about the way that this experience took them so far. And this is a very similar sentiment, by the way, for every family that I've received a letter from. That's what the show's about. That's where it's at its core, and you don't get that unless you put them through this. Okay.
Why do you think there's been such controversy? And obviously, I don't want to sound naive, because the controversy certainly helps your show. It helps the ratings. It helps the.
I wish I didn't have it.
But why do you think that you've been attacked on what I would call ethical or moral grounds? I want you to sort of respond to that. And by the way, I don't think it has to do with what you, at least what I've read in the press, what you have been defending yourself, whether these are middle class families or low, lower class families. Honestly, I don't think that matters, because in our American society right now, I think what used to be the considered to be the lower class is now considered the middle class.
I agree with you.
And so on. And some of these families, quite frankly, would probably be considered lower class. But again, I don't think it matters. I think calling them needy is accurate. I think we're all needy. And I considered, before I even wrote the article in Time, whether or not you could do the same show with upper class families. And I think you could, because a family that was desperately in need of $2 or $3 million to get out of debt, to pay their significant bills because their multi-million-dollar business closed, would be in the same predicament if you gave them a briefcase of $3 million and then told them about another family in the same situation. So again, I think it comes back to deceit, but I want to hear from you. Why do you think there's been such criticism of your concept for this reality TV show?
Well, I think that you have to separate the critics and the media, and the ones who have seen. There's two groups of people, first of all. There's three. They're the fans, who overwhelmingly are loving the show, 80%, who have seen it and love it for what it is and understand what's the core is. That's one group. It's a popular show. We're the #1 show in households. There's a critics and who hate it. I'll put you in the critic category, even though you're a rabbi. And many of the critics have not watched actual episodes. They're commenting on the promos or the concept of the show. And that, first and foremost, is bothering me a lot. It's irresponsible journalism. And by the way, Jason,
you know I watch the shows.
I do, and that's why I wanted to come on with you, because I'll respect what you have to say. Well, I respect it anyway, but I would not respect it if you do not watch an episode. I don't want to talk to somebody who has not watched an episode. You don't have to love my show. I will respect that. Just watch.
And by the way, for the record, I think you do a good job of characterizing these families. I mean, getting the audience to know who they are. Again, it goes back to this D word of deceit, because, and again, you probably could not get, or you certainly could not get to your end result, which is the touchdown of the show, getting these families together.
So let me just ask you,
without the deceit, but it doesn't mean you have to be show with.
It's not deceit, and this is why I want to clarify with you. You feel it is, and I'm going to tell you why it's not. But the criticism, by the way, most of the criticism by the press, and you have to look at the headlines, is the briefcase pits struggling, poverty-stricken families against each other. Now, you've seen headline after headline after headline. So first, it's misleading. I have to address the class issue. I didn't make the show about class. The critics have put it there. I made it about families that are deserving and struggle. By the way, your point is exactly spot on. Middle-class families in this country struggle. That's what I wanted in our first season, a middle-class family. So we're not poverty-stricken, and that's wrong. And the Hunger Games analogy means that you're putting a briefcase of cash in a Coliseum.
And I, by the way, I never used the Hunger Games.
I know you didn't, but have you seen the ones who have?
Of course.
Okay. And again, wait a second. Would you agree with me that that's not an accurate portrayal of the show?
I think you have to watch a TV show before you review it.
Okay.
I saw, the first two episodes. Actually, I saw the first episode because I filed the article with Time last week, and then saw the second episode and the third last night.
Let me just answer one question, because I haven't answered it yet.
It's an entertaining show. I think where people, at least I'll put myself in the category of critics who watched the TV show and saw more than just the trailer. I would say that my criticism is on the concept of the show, and you are the show's creator. So you can, and like I said, you can create whatever you want. I was shocked that CBS would greenlight a show like this, because it is based on the concept of deceit. Because these are families.
1 second, Jason.
These are families who thought they were originally. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. They thought they were having a gift of $101,000.
No, that's not what they thought.
What did they think when they were given a briefcase and you said, "This is for you"? I mean, and I watched it very carefully. I watched
Hold on. So let's
watch the delivery of the cash.
Let's set it up. Because I'll give you, first of all, I walk in, I give them the money, and I tell them it's theirs to keep. Correct? You and I are on the same page so far?
Theirs to keep.
Okay.
Period.
They could do anything they want with the money, right?
You say that to them, yes.
Okay, then I say, but with the money is going to come a decision, right? This is what I say. Hold on a second.
It's a little bit. It's after they have a little bit of time to celebrate their newfound wealth and their
absolutely
their surprise gift.
Hold on.
I mean, think about it this way. Let me give it to you.
One second. You got to let me finish it, and I want to hear you. Okay. I tell them the money's theirs. They could do anything, and it's all theirs. They open it up. There's $101,000, and I say it's all yours. They celebrate. You're exactly right. Tears. Oh my God. I tell them you can do anything you want with the money. However, there is a decision that goes with this. This comes at the top of the show, Jason. That decision is they can keep all of it, some of it, or none of it. Whatever they don't keep, if they make that decision, is going to get passed on to another family. Now, that's in the first 5 minutes of the show. There is no deceit. They can make the decision is solely theirs. By the way, they also, if they wanted to bail and say, we're out, we don't want this, we don't want to be part of this, take your $100,000, Dave, and get lost.
Sure.
They had that opportunity too.
Okay.
That never happened. And if I had toyed with them the way you're suggesting, because that's what deceit really is, if I'm being deceitful to them, I would not have told them about the decision. I would have let them sit there, start thinking about how to spend the money, go spend the money, go, oh, wait a minute. You don't understand. There's a decision. The only thing they don't know about, Jason, the only thing they don't know about is the second briefcase. And the reason why they don't know about that is because that would cloud their decision. So you cannot say, we can disagree on this, but you can't say that I'm being deceitful to them if I'm giving the money and I'm telling them about the decision that they need to make. They have that opportunity to do anything they want with it. Let me ask you something.
Yeah, one of the options that they have with it is to donate it to whoever they want.
What's wrong with that?
They can give it to their favorite charity. They don't.
And what's wrong? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
There's nothing. I mean, for many people, first of all, they would take the money and say, "We need," and.
But isn't that what's?
I want to back up a point.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that.
But that's. But didn't I give him that? But didn't I give him that decision?
The first 2 episodes, I haven't heard anyone say, "Let's keep $100,000. We'll give 10% to cancer research, another 10% to our favorite food bank."
So let's say they didn't. By the way, do you know that of the $75,000 that the Wileys kept last night? First of all, they helped another family that they've just met and don't agree with their lifestyle. They gave them 25% of their money. They're taking $75,000. They're going to help their sister out. They're going to help their children out. And by the way, they're going to help God out because they're going to donate probably at least 10% to
10% to the church. So
in a biblical light.
Yeah. So
one second, let me just say, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because you talk about give a man, the fish, your fish analogy, obviously. These are
Maimonides.
You're right. If you think about it at the end of the day, not only, I help these families not only fish, but I help them teach others to fish in this case. These families not only receive the blessing, Jason, but they have the opportunity to bless not only another family, a complete stranger, but other people in their life. How at the end of the day, 2 deserving families, I'm giving, I don't want to say me, but we're giving $200,000 to 2 deserving families that are able to pass that along.
Full disclosure, you're certainly capitalizing. I don't want to use the term exploiting, but you're certainly capitalizing because yes, CBS is gifting or donating this money to families in need. But I'm sure making a lot more money on the production of the show.
Well, hold on a second. You're not gonna bag on at the end of the day.
No.
I mean, listen. We're a business.
I'm a capitalist. You're entitled to make money,
right? I mean, I'm not ducking. I am a television producer. My job. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a God. I'm not Jesus.
I make a living, and so is Les Moonves. Right. I'm not debating that.
And by the way, I'm not hiding from the fact that putting aside making a living, it's my job to entertain. I need to bring ratings to whatever show I make. However, I can choose the shows that I want to make, and my shows have a social, redeemable, thought provocative, and sometimes very tough conversation that's forced in the household. Do you think I experienced the same thing with The Biggest Loser? Do you know? And do you know how many people came out and hated my show because
because you're fat shaming people?
Yes.
Read the articles. You know, in my opinion, look.
Am I?
It's a different show. I don't see anything deceitful about The Biggest Loser. In this case, presumably you have friends and you've given gifts to your friends, correct?
I have.
Okay. Do you give them the gift and then say, happy birthday, here's your gift, and that's it? Or do you say, happy birthday, here's your gift, but you should know, this is a really nice gift and there is someone else who could use it more than you. Maybe you just want to take what I gave you and give it to the goodwill.
That's a great question. And in that scenario where we're not trying to learn more than just the gift itself, you're absolutely right. If I came in and made a donation to the temple and I said, Rabbi, I want to give you $1 million to build the new school for the children. You're trying to build it and you have a charity drive. But I say to you, you know what? Take what you need. And whatever you don't need, if you don't need it all, I'd like you to give it to someone else. It could be a church. Think about giving it to a church.
And the church has $1 million that was gifted to them and they could decide.
Hold on a second.
That's a great concept for
it could be a season 2. You and I can make it together. But the truth is, if I gave you that donation, and I bet you would sit there and turn that into a sermon for your congregation. You would stand there and you say, you know what? We got a beneficiary gave us $1 million to build our school. He also said, take what we need and we could use it all. But whatever we don't need, we can also give to a church group that needs money too. I promise you would not feel greedy about taking that money if you wanted it and could have justified using it. And B, you would have taken it as a lesson to your congregation to sit there and think about how many other people you can affect. Yes, we could get this school done with that $1 million right now. Or we can take some of this, help other people, and continue moving forward with our drive. I promise you, as a rabbi, without putting words in your mouth, I think you would give that sermon to your congregation. I really do.
So on that, I would say that where it is a little bit different is the human emotional quality. And I think that's where people are really calling you out on this, is that you are tinkering with people's emotions. I think when you give to an institution, it's a little bit different. And quite frankly, as a rabbi, I might say to you, Dave, if you're doing this to try and give a lesson to our congregation, let's sit down and I'll craft a sermon and maybe we can work on, how this money is going to be allocated in such a way that some of it goes to our infrastructure, some of it goes to our institution, and some of it goes to our neighbors down the street at the church. In this case, though, when you give it to a family, if you gave it to me and said, here's $101,000, but some of it has to go to this other family I'm going to tell you about, I would
Not someone has to. You have an option.
Has a choice, has a decision to make. I might say to you, why don't you give, take some of the money away and give it to the family? Obviously, it wouldn't make for the TV concept.
No, but I was expecting you to actually give me that answer. That's the funny thing. I was waiting for you to tell me that.
There it is.
Thanks.
It took me 40 minutes.
But what I'll tell you is that you then would never have had the opportunity to sit there with your children and talk. Imagine if the other family was a Muslim family for a second. Let's be really stereotypical. Okay. Right. It wouldn't matter to you, of course. But if you had the opportunity and you learned that this was a Muslim family, and you had the opportunity to take a Jewish family on one side and a Muslim family on another, we know about all the sensitivities that are out there, and go, hey, you know what?
Episode 5 or 6.
What?
Is that episode 5 or 6?
It's not. I actually tried to look for that scenario, believe it or not. I couldn't find it. But that's what I wanted to find. I was looking for a Muslim family. I found an Orthodox family, believe it or not, living in New York, who wanted to do this, but I could not find the opposite. And so you would then have the ability to open the eyes to millions of people, because I'm putting a camera on you. If it's in your own household, it's your conversation. But by filming this and having that conversation, but you would be able to stir up conversations that took place like last night on last night's episode. That's so more powerful than the money part of this. And that's what I want to achieve with the show. If I did,
why didn't you get out ahead of the premiere episode and spin it this way? And I don't mean spin in a negative context either, but I feel like this commentary, as we say, the Rashi, to give the name of a famous commentator, give the Rashi about this. What do you
why?
Out of the show if it's not, the next, 3 million viewer reality TV concept? If there really is this human quality, and you're bringing people together, and you're showing the dynamics within someone's household of how they decide how much money they need to spend on certain necessities and how much money they want to donate to those worst off.
I want to tell you, Rabbi.
Where was that? Where was that commentary? That was not an attachment to the trailer.
No, and I tell you, in hindsight, I feel we made a big mistake in a couple of ways. We focus tested. First of all, before these episodes aired, I made a pilot episode that did not air. It was not episode 1. You can imagine how tough it is to get a show on any network, especially a network like CBS. We focus tested that pilot. The audience said, one of the best things they've ever seen on television. We took, not last night's episode, but episode 1 and 2, because that's all we had time to focus test. I think 4 to 6 times. When I say we focus test, CBS has a testing ground it's in Las Vegas, actually. They pull people off the street. They sit them down, and they're a representation of America. Do you know that these people thought that the show was the best reality show they've ever seen? This was an 85% mark. The freshest, most real, genuine show that's ever been put on television. We never, ever got into this conversation with anybody. If it would have come up in focus testing, I would have sat there. A, I would have looked at the episodes and go, what are we missing? Or B, I would have done exactly what you're saying. This wave from the media, who, again, I want to separate. There's media like, I'll put you in the media right now. There are media like you who have watched the episodes, and we're having a very respectful debate, and I love it. And there's media who are, Russell Brand did a 6.5-minute video on YouTube that's got, as of yesterday, 90,000 hits on the Briefcase. And all he did, by his own admission in the video, was comment on the trailer.
Still good publicity for you, let's be honest.
I don't, you know what, Rabbi? It's not what I want.
I know.
I want, it's like, I know that cliche, good publicity, bad publicity. It's not true. It's hurting me as a person and as a producer. It's affecting my life because it's not what I set out to do. It's not the tone of the show. It's not I don't believe it's the spirit of the show. And look, I will respect where you're coming from.
I told you what I said was I like where you get.
But you have to get there in a bumpy ride.
You're right, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it. That's my argument, is that there are a lot of things that the end result is great, but it doesn't justify the process.
Let me ask you this. Let me just ask a question on that. Yeah. If I would have, at the end of the episode, given both families, made up the difference, if I said, here's the money, now that you've gone through, would that have made a difference to you? If both families walked away with the full $100,000, would you said, oh, Dave, you're a mensch? No, because you still played with their emotions, right? And again, when I say that, your profession, your occupation is to make great TV, entertaining TV, and this concept is entertaining because it fits very neatly into every produced reality TV concept. Dude, let me interrupt you right there, though. In order to get there, you have to do some things which we
I don't want to put myself in any category, media, Russell Brand, or anyone else, but we all categorically understand that is unethical.
Jason, one second.
One sec. At the end of the day, the last segment of the show, I think, has some redeeming qualities to it, and I said that. It's just I don't like how you start, and I think that's where people are taking you to task, is that it lacks ethics, and I'm not saying
that's your opinion.
Yeah, but I'm entitled to my opinion. It was an
op-ed.
It was an op-ed in Time. I can write my opinion.
Yeah, you feel it lacks the ethics. Let me ask you something. First of all, do you see a value? Do you see a message? Do you see a lesson? Do you see an opportunity that the show opens eyes? Yes or no on that?
Certainly.
Okay.
I think it opens eyes to, like a lot of these shows. I would argue that some of these even less redeeming, less valuable talk shows, like Maury Povich.
Well, no. Let's not talk about that. 1 second. I just
opens eyes. I mean, these are parts of society. I don't really go into. I don't take house tours of the Texas family home. He likes Friday Night Lights and Sunday church. I don't get to that part of Texas that often.
Okay, but here's my question.
The part where he's with his daughter shooting soup cans, in the woods, is not an activity I do with my.
I don't mean
daughter.
Right, nor me. But I don't. I'm not talking about open eyes into someone's life necessarily, which it does do. I'm talking about, do you see the show opening eyes into conversations? Let me go back to the first episode for a second. I'll give you a really quick, and then I want to ask you one other question.
Yeah.
Joe Bergen and Kim Bergen in our premiere episode, North Carolina family. Joe Bergen had not made a financial decision in 20 years of marriage. He has straddled his wife with an amazing amount of responsibility and ducked his head in the sand. By his own admission, it caused conflict in their marriage. It was forget miscommunication, no communication between a married couple. In going through this and forcing them, this is what I did, to have these conversations, to talk about money, to talk about their life, to talk about love, to evaluate everything they have in their life. And he comes out of this and says, I was a jerk. I was an idiot. I did something to my wife in over 20 years that I never should have done. And not only should I have not done it, but going through this process has given me the opportunity to love her and appreciate her in a way that I never have, and at the same time will force me to be more involved in my family's finances. You heard those words. That's not what I'm saying. That's what he said. You can talk about anything you want about money or the deceitfulness that you feel it is. You're thinking, in order to get that kind of an outcome, in order to get a gay lesbian couple and a right-wing Christian family to come to that conclusion, and to do, and every single week to have that happen, to have a family, as a rabbi, we believe in the sanctity of marriage. We want couples to work problems out. Do you know, you and I both know, money and financial issues is the number one reason for divorce.
That's right.
And these families are having conversations that they should have had for years, but haven't had. And I'm not sitting here going, look at me, I'm the saint producer.
No, but
I think what's happening.
Again, the takeaway is noble. I mean, I don't know if you have to
get there.
I don't know if you're saving marriages, but certainly I do think, you're helping people communicate. You're talking about charitable giving. You're talking about, financial management.
And where are you hearing that on network television? Where does that, our children are watching the Kardashians. Women are flocking to housewives of type shows where the issues, I'm not, one second, these are the examples that are being set in our lives as values. These are, come on. Even I'll give you that it's a bumpy ride. I'll give you that it is a tough road. I'll even say to you, hey, you know what? In that vacuum, you want to call it deceitfulness. I want to call it purity, to be quite honest with you. But the fact of the matter is that look at what is happening here. And this is on CBS. This isn't on a cable show. Look at what we're talking about. Look at the opportunity that you and I are having to have this conversation. Look at the fans. Read the boards. Faith in humanity, charity, communication, love, finding common bond. Come on. This is what we should be doing on television.
So now that more people know about the show and the concept of the show, how are you going to get more
season 2?
Yeah. No, how do you get more candidates who don't know what the ruse is?
I filmed 6 episodes for the first season. The second season is a different twist that keeps the show true to its core. You know, the values, what matters most, all those things, but find something very different. I would have an offline conversation with you because I would love to tell you what it is in the confidentiality of a rabbi and somebody else.
In an NDA.
Right. But you know, there's something really interesting that I have that, listen, I have to still get there. You know, we might not be a show that lasts, you know, despite being the #1 show on the air. There's a lot of other things that are out there. There's a backlash against the show, not from the fans. You know, I want to tell you something I think that would be very interesting. 3 nights ago, Tuesday night, I did a diversity screening at CBS. This was African-American representations, LGBT, you name it. It was a cross group, right? About 80 people in there. And first of all, a third of that room, I would say, never heard of the show. We still have an awareness issue. That's the cluttered environment that we live in. The other half of the room, I would say the 2/3, came in hating it. They hadn't seen an episode yet. This was what was so upsetting to me. We had this talk prior to them watching the episode. And when the episode was over, not only did they give it a standing applause, they were upset, really, really, really upset that they had not given the show a chance because of what they had read about it. And they did not feel like the show was what it was written about. They felt like it opened up and sparked conversations. By the way, some of them had the same visceral initial reactions that you have, but feel and felt that the power of what the show ultimately does and the conversations and debate that it sparks within the household is way, way more powerful than anything else. That this is allowed, that this is an opportunity to watch a show like this and have these kinds of conversations. And they were upset, really upset. And look, they may have helped us go up in the ratings a bit because they got out there and talked about the show. I don't know. But that's what I want the show to be about. That's what I set it out to be. And in hindsight 2020, I would have gotten ahead of this if I thought this was an issue. But it never was, and it never came up. And the last thing I want to say is, you know, first of all, I really respect this opportunity to talk. Thank you. You know, I want the audience to look at the show. And there's no show is perfect, by the way. You can look at a show like Biggest Loser and say, well, why does he have to, you know, he's helping people save their life. But, you know, they're getting their shirts off and they're practically stripping down naked in front of them. Every show has its bumpiness to get to where you are. The one question I want to ask you, have you ever seen a show called Intervention?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
It's pretty amazing. It's been on the air for 10 years. It was also destroyed as exploitation for many years. especially early on. It takes a drug addict or an alcoholic, and I'm talking in their darkest, deepest days, and it follows them for 3 or 4 days, I think, leading up to a family intervention, that they make a decision whether or not they are going to go into rehab or not. They think they're being filmed as part of a documentary that's following their life with their struggle. It's very, very, very dark. It's not what we have in the Briefcase. But it to show that as a producer and as just a general public viewer, I look at it and I applaud, because it's real. And reality television, you wrote in your article in the Time that, the worst show ever. Reality television, the Briefcase, reality television gets slammed for one of two things: when it's fake and a bunch of crap and BS. But then the second you really try to put something on the opposite side,
when it's too real,
it's slammed as well.
So in all fairness, Dave, I was going to make the same point that you just made. We are very critical of reality TV. It's possible because it's a new genre. As I did open in the piece in Time, it's really only been around for less than 2 decades. And I think that we're still getting used to it. And certainly when it comes across as being too scripted, we say that can't possibly be reality TV. And to your point, when it gets a little bit into people's heads too much, we feel that might be a violation. And certainly these people knew what they were getting into at the end of it. Where I still take exception is at the beginning of it, which does seem to be deception. I think that what you've done with The Greatest Loser is
Biggest
noble.
Loser.
The Biggest Loser. What did I say?
The greatest. But I'll take that too.
Sorry. What you've done with The Biggest Loser is very important, and helping people overcome obesity and become healthy. I think is very important, and I'm certainly willing to keep watching and see where this goes, and maybe there will be a sermon come Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur about it. So I wish you the best of luck with the show. If you want to say a couple words about upcoming episodes and who we can see, the type of people, go ahead, and we'll close with that.
Great. I appreciate that. Next week episodes deals with an amazing Latino family, Mexican, living in East LA. They're a mariachi group themselves. They have overcome every single cliche obstacle you can imagine. Epsi, the wife, was pregnant at 17 by her husband, Richard, who was not her husband at the time. They've now been married, I think over 20 years with 2 children. They, not only did they overcome that, Epsi is working on her master's degree. They're both teachers. They give back to the community with this mariachi foundation in a very big way. In fact, I would let you know that we have an amazing scene with their priest, who they talk to in church to get his opinion on this situation that they're in, which I think is unbelievable. On the other side of the country is a Boston firefighter and his wife. They are very, very charitable, and they struggle. They are foster parents. They take kids in. They are probably the most selfless people I have personally ever seen. I can't believe what they do. All of these families end up being and are selfless, but these guys in particular are very interesting. It's a very, very emotional episode next week. I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very, as I am with all of these, by the way. I really am. I just think that I think it's going to be another shocking episode. I think the audience is going to be very engaged.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you reaching out, and I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did. I want to thank you for taking the time. I got to run to my son's 5th grade graduation. There's no decision there. No difficult choice. I got to go.
Congrats.
And thank you very much. And be in touch, and best of luck.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye.
Bye.